hands on fire. Tell me you went so far from the sea zone now, so focused, committed. Oh, oh, oh. I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Oh, 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 oh. I'm on the road, I'm on the road. Take me down to the ocean side with skies blue and hope is high. You went left and I went right. Didn't get no sleep last night. Tell me you're so far from the sea zone out from all this negativity. Coming home, I'm coming home. I'm on the road, I'm on the road. All right, we'll get started. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Mark. I am the marketing manager at Ocean Floor Music. We have a very cool lineup of people here today. So thank you for those who are jumping on stage today. We are talking about the appetite for music NFTs in Australia, which, if NFT Fest last week is a guide, is pretty strong. So excited to be talking with everyone. Anyone wants to jump up on stage, ask questions, share their piece, feel more than free. Very open to anyone wanting to chat. But I am going to throw to Rowdy first. Theo, we want to get you on stage as well. But Rowdy, introduce yourself. I believe you're at NFT Fest last week. I'm sad I didn't meet you. Maybe I did. Maybe we shared a drink. I'm not sure. But introduce yourself, say hello. And thank you for joining us. Sad I didn't meet you. Maybe I did. Maybe we shared a drink. I'm not sure. But introduce yourself, say hello. And thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hi, GM. Hi, I'm Rowdy. I'm an alcoholic. 32 years old. No, I'm joking. No, I'm not actually. No, I'm Rowdy. The co-founder of NFT APAC, we host monthly consistent events in Melbourne, Sydney, Gold Coast, New Zealand, and pushing through to Asia in 23. I've also got a full-time gig, which I've just started recently, which is quite cool. So I'm the CMO for a gaming company. It's called Army of Fortunes. Pretty much what it is. It's the co-founders of Clash of Clans. They've started a blockchain gaming company. And I'm the CMO for that, which is cool, fun, and I'm the CMO for that, which is cool, fun, and experimenting with that, which I really enjoy, and just all about the good vibes.
Dope, man. How was NFT Fest for you?
Yeah, NFT Fest was amazing. Really, really cool. Greg, Rochelle, and Steve done an amazing job.
So good.
Went to 8 of, I think, the 9 side events. The only one I didn't go to was a Psychedelics Anonymous one, which I think was on the Friday evening, but I was pretty buggered. But everything else was amazing. Yeah, it just goes to show you, like the people, the culture, the community. I guess in Australasia is really, really big. It's really cool to see everyone come together. We done 38 podcasts during the event, and the same thing. We asked everyone, what do you love most about Web3? And everyone's like the people, the community, and I think that's really, really important, especially in the current market. It's just really cool to see people come together, building really cool things, support one another. And it was just fucking vibes there, man. Everyone there was just, on their best behavior and was just happy. And I think that's really, really cool and really, really special. And just goes to show that we've got something really special down here, what's happening in the rest of the world with America, Europe, Asia, and all that sort of stuff. It's really cool to see, some of the OGs in this space. So, yeah, loved it.
Yeah, I felt like the vibe was just so positive and strong, and obviously it was a sellout. It's just, it was really cool to just see that Aussie community just supporting everyone and such a strong energy given the the state of the market at the moment. It was positive and strong, and obviously it was a sellout. It's just, yeah, it was really cool to just see that Aussie community just supporting everyone and such a strong energy given the state of the market at the moment. It was super, super cool. Theo, I know you were there as well. I was trying to hook up a podcast record with our founders with you, which I think I failed on. Apologies. But yeah, I'd love to get your thoughts on NFT Fest and how it was for you.
GM. Yeah, mate, it's all good. We got plenty of time. We're doing a bunch of them remotely as well, so that's all good. Yeah, a bit of intro on me. On weekends, I'm Rowdy's Gimp, but during the week, I do a bunch of things in Web3, in the event space, in the music space. So we can get into that if you want in a little bit. But my week was awesome. Aside from getting sick, which I know a lot of people did, I had an awesome time. I think the crew, like Rowdy said, did an absolutely amazing job pulling off something so intricate in terms of having to coordinate that many speakers, and choice of venues were excellent, choice of partners were excellent. I really don't think they put a foot wrong. So were excellent, choice of partners were excellent. I really don't think they put a foot wrong. So full respect to them, and we all support each other on the daily. No matter who it is in the space, us and Rowdy and Dan, or the crew at NFT Fest, or whoever it might be. Like Rowdy said, the people, just about every single person I've met along the way has been incredible. So I'm looking forward to chatting tonight as well. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, totally, man. So you were up on stage once or twice, is that right?
I was on once. Unfortunately, it was the same time as Rowdy, so I didn't get to go and support him. But I had the privilege of speaking with Jimmy.eth, who is one of the godfathers of the Web3 era. Got into pretty interesting and energy packed convo. So I'm looking forward to watching that back, to be honest with you, because it was sort of like, I don't know, when I'm in those moments, I'm sort of like unconscious because I know what I need to do, but I'm not really taking it in. I should probably do a better job of that. But that dude's a weapon, man. Like, we can get into it, but I mean, the highlight, like, just to give you a bit of a weighting on who the guy is, he minted 420 Bored Apes. So say less, I guess.
Wow, that's crazy. No need to put up hands or anything either, guys. Let's just feel free to do an all-in. But I want to throw to Soiree. Obviously, we want to chat about music NFTs today, and Soiree is someone who knows a lot about music NFTs. So Soiree, jump in, man.
Yeah, hey guys, thank you for having me. I've been a performing, producing artist for about, give or take, 10 years now. And then, was kind of doing the Web2 grind, and selling my soul and a lot of my credibility for fuck all. Selling my soul and a lot of my credibility for fuck all results, really. And then fell in love with the culture of NFTs and the community around it as well. Also Theo, shout out to you, man, because actually your chat with Jimmy.eth was one of my favorites of the whole thing. So thank you for that, man. Just a little side note, I don't want to forget that. But yeah, that's kind of me, just getting stuck into Web3 that way. I'm also working really closely with Emanate and MotorDAO as well. So it's kind of music streaming and music publishing, respectively. But yeah, that's me. I'm super keen to be here, and thanks for having me.
So when did your journey start, and what kicked that off?
The Web3 journey specifically?
Yeah.
Man, it's about 2 years ago now. I was always kind of interested in what NFTs could do, and obviously, more broadly, cryptocurrency. But about 2 years ago, I was working part-time in the worst job of my life. And then I saw that Emanate needed someone who knew about music and who knew about NFTs. So I got in touch with Sean Gardner. I was like, man, please give me a job. So it could marry my my passions of producing music and also talking about music. I'm lucky enough to do basically all the writing and artist onboarding for Emanate. So yeah, that's kind of how I got involved in that. And yeah, and it's just been like just the most, since I started there maybe 2 years ago, it's just been the most incredible journey, and I just love this shit, man. It's so exciting. Not to geek out too hard, but yeah, that's basically how it began.
That's awesome. I do just want to throw quickly to Oz NFT because I haven't introduced them. Who's joining us from Oz NFT? Jump in.
What's up, Mark? Josh here. I'm one of the co-founders
Oh, hey, man.
of Oz NFT. How are you, mate?
Yeah,
It's a shame
good.
we didn't get to meet at NFT Fest. I love that story, and I would definitely love to hear more about it. That's what we're here for. Yeah, look, NFT Fest was wild. We got in a few days earlier and left a couple of days later as well, and yeah, just felt the love the whole way through. So many amazing satellite events. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit nasally. I brought the spicy lung back with me though, so extra souvenir. Why not? But yeah, no, I had an amazing time there. We got the opportunity to interview you guys, Ocean Floor Music, which was so cool to dive in deep and just hear about what you guys are doing. We're so excited to see everything come to fruition and some of the features. We got the opportunity to interview you guys, Ocean Floor Music, which was so cool to dive in deep and just hear about what you guys are doing. We're so excited to see everything come to fruition and some of the features you guys have going. I'll let you sort of chat on that, but very exciting stuff, super bullish. And yeah, got to meet Theo, got to hang out with the NFT Mel boys and just see a lot of old and new faces, which was just super cool. And yeah, not to sort of repeat what everyone said, but really it was just the community. It was the vibe. It was people just being there despite the bear, despite all the issues in the space, just being there, being excited to build and just sort of, sharing. There's a lot of people really sharing knowledge and just sort of making sure that everyone's across what everyone's across so that we can all rise the tide, especially, trying to help out the Web3 space here in Australia. Something that we're obviously very passionate about. So yeah, it was an amazing vibe, and just on a personal note, absolutely love Melbourne as a city. So any opportunity we have to get down there, we always take it. Just on a personal note, absolutely love Melbourne as a city. So any opportunity we have to get down there, we always take it.
Did you feel a music vibe at all over there? I don't know if this was just me and my bubble. Obviously, we had our party. There was the Motored Out party. Was it Little Bubble that played on stage as well with the space helmet on? Emanate, I think, were around as well. Yeah, did you kind of feel that through the week, or is this just me and my own little music bubble?
I've got to say it was quite a mix for me personally. We spent some time with Ridley Plummer, who was heading the AO Art Ball, which was super exciting. So having talks about sports in the space, which is really, really interesting, and I think a huge use case for bringing Web 2 across into Web 3. We also spoke to people in AI, which was really interesting. A lot of people talking about DAOs, which is nice to see them getting a bit more representation. So, as well as music, obviously. Nouns DAO were, making a scene, which was amazing. They're incredible, and they're doing everything from art to music and everything in between. So, yeah, from what I saw, it was nice, as a nice mix. Yeah, definitely a nice mix.
How about you, Swaro? What was your vibe of the week in terms of music, and yeah, just how are you seeing everything in music NFTs at the moment?
How am I seeing music NFTs?
Yeah, like
everywhere, or specifically at NFT Fest?
Both. Let's go both. I'm curious to hear your input.
Sure. I think with NFT Fest itself, I felt like everywhere, or specifically at NFT Fest.
Both. Let's go both. I'm curious to hear your input.
Sure. I think with NFT Fest itself, I felt like it was super broad, and that was quite interesting for me personally because obviously I'm super biased towards music NFTs, but so much so that I forget that you can do other things with them sometimes. So it was actually super interesting to see hear from the lady from Penfolds and what they were doing, and just hearing about all the all the different applications more broadly. So that was really cool. I didn't, I feel like, again, being in the little bubble, like I obviously sought out the music related stuff and was super impressed with what I saw. And that was, really, really inspiring. And more broadly, like I think it's an interesting one because the artists that I speak to who aren't involved in music NFTs and even their management, so many of them speak about, why is this necessary? Why should we be paying attention to this? And there's still, the further you go out from the bubble that we're all in, it kind of they're more and more confused by it, which I think is a real shame because artists are the ones missing out by not taking advantage. That is personally, that's my perspective. But yeah, I mean the fest itself was awesome. Ones missing out by not taking advantage. That is personally, that's my perspective. But yeah, I mean the fest itself was awesome. Yeah, I thought it was it was a good mix overall.
What do you say to people when they ask why they should care?
It's a difficult one. It's a really hard sell because you're stuck between sounding like an asshole and just lecturing to them, or just being a bit preachy to them. I think like it's just. I was having this conversation with a mate of mine. He's in an indie band, and he still thinks they're a fad. And he still thinks that they're they're a scam, or it's not worth doing, and the Spotify grind or that's the way to go, and that's really disheartening. It's a real shame. And you try and like I always use the iTunes still shame. And you try and like I always use the iTunes store as kind of that was in a way like that it functions. A good NFT marketplace can function the same way as iTunes did back in the day, and that the artists can kind of understand that a little bit. But for the most part, yeah, it's a real kind of uphill battle trying to convince them.
Hey, Soiree, I got a question for you. I guess just for the audience. Sorry to jump in, Mark, but
Please
from
do.
an artist perspective, why would like Spotify versus music NFT? I guess if you could break that down for the audience, like pros and cons from your perspective.
Sure. I mean, the biggest pro that I had is that so I've been making music for give or take 10 years, and then performing as a solo artist for about the past 5 or 6. I made more selling music NFTs in an afternoon than I did in 5 years from Spotify streaming revenue. So that's the simplest way I can break it down for artists. And like it's not to say that everyone can do that. Like I think, just because you turn your music into an NFT doesn't guarantee that anyone's going to buy it. It's still got to be good. Not trying to fucking, blow myself up here, but like that's the most exciting use case that I have, and that's why I encourage every artist to do the same thing.
Did you include with your music, any of your music NFTs? Did you offer royalty share to any of your holders? Music NFTs. Did you offer royalty share to any of your holders?
No, that was actually like all through the initial drop was all through Mint Songs, RIP Mint Songs, and that was just like the most basic setup. I just minted 5 singles, like 30 copies of each, and then just let it go. And with minimal kind of input, I just thought it would be like a fun little experiment to get my feet wet. And change the game.
Can I just jump in real quick and add on to Rowdy's question? So, Soiree, you said you're in for 5 years. You're on Spotify. Obviously, what are your thoughts on? You said you're in for 5 years. You're on Spotify. What are your thoughts on Spotify versus NFTs? Are NFTs a replacement for Spotify, or did Spotify help you to get that exposure, get that leverage, and then allow you to sell to a community and actually be successful in your NFT drop?
Totally. I think personally the way that I have been treating it is that the two worlds, both Spotify and NFTs, you don't have to choose one or the other. I think you can do both, and you should be doing both. But I also don't necessarily think it's up to the artist to educate your Spotify audience and try and pull them across, because Spotify and Instagram, that those worlds go hand in hand. And if you spend any amount of time on Instagram, you'll know that it's not the best place to shill NFTs. So I think I would encourage artists to do both, and you approach them differently. It's just like you're having a conversation with two different groups of people. I don't need my Spotify audience, which is, admittedly very, very small. I don't need them to know what NFTs are, because people who, I've got those two audiences, and I just, I treat them differently.
So would you say that you came in and approached the Web3 audience kind of from scratch, and that's your market for your NFTs?
Yeah, almost entirely. Like, I think, it was obviously working closely with Emanate and MotorDAO. I was able to maybe, you could argue that I was able to build a bigger name faster through those channels, just by, being able to have conversations like this. So that may have helped. But yeah, the NFT audience was basically started completely from scratch. And again, is modest, but like it's a community that I vibe with a lot more than my Spotify audience. Not to speak badly of those people, but well, for one, I don't even know who they are, because that's Web2 for you.
Yeah, I think that connection's a really key point. That's super cool.
I think you explained that really, really well, and I think it's also cool for people to understand that it's different audiences as well. Like you just exactly like how you just said. There's that Web2 audience, and now there's a Web3. So if anything, that's value add to the artist, right? And I think that's really important here. And you explained that perfectly, man. So thank you.
Oh man, thanks very much.
The way
like exactly like how you just said. There's that Web2 audience, and now there's a Web3. So if anything, that's value add to the artist, right? And I think that's really important here. And you explained that perfectly, man. So thank you.
Oh man, thanks very much.
the way we see it with our crew, like collectively across our stable, probably did a couple of billion streams. Probably did a couple of billion streams on Spotify this year. Like that makes money, but like there needs to be other channels in which artists can interact with their audience. We need to give them other abilities to make money. We need to give them other abilities to have creative outlets. We need to give them a way to get closer with their audiences as well. Music's universal, right? Pretty much, I don't think I've ever met anyone that doesn't like some form of music. It's a form of communication as well. And by bringing people and helping them understand, and artists specifically helping them understand the power of Web3, there's a few different ways that I've had success with people that I've spoken to. It's going to depend on whether they're signed to a major, or if they're indie, or if they're starting out. Like the conversation needs to be tailored to their situation. It's like, I mean, whenever you're selling or speaking to anyone, it has to be contextual, right? But specifically with artists, I can say this because I am one. They can be pretty protective of their whatever they're creating. So the conversation really that I've had success is, like I said, it's tailored to their situation, but usually it's about giving them control back. If they're sort of the bigger guys, giving them control back around how they earn their money, giving them the ability to, that's why I said before, know more of their, giving them control back around how they earn their money, giving them the ability to, that's why I said before, know more of their, especially their super fans, give their super fans the ability to get closer to them. Now, this is also comes with a grain of salt as well, because the artists, depending on what they're prepared to give in the value exchange, they need to be in it. Because if they're going to go down the path of, I'm going to call it a 360 situation where they're giving access to themselves, or some sort of meet and greets or studio sessions or whatever it might be, they have to be committed to that, and they can't just be like, oh, no, I can't be fucked doing that anymore. But there's absolutely also a place for just artists to create and to give people the ability to consume their creations through a different way of transacting other than streaming. There's actually a local Melbourne guy called Hipworth who has like a Beatport competitor in beta. It's fully. I was actually talking on the Pixel Boss podcast that released today. I was talking about it on there, and essentially they give you the artist the ability to mint on their platform. You can choose how the royalty split happens, which wallets it goes to. All happens on chain, and it gives you a bunch of different functions across the board when you actually mint your song or your album or your collection or whatever it might be from a music perspective on there. And then they're also building out other functionality now where it's going to allow you to essentially they can build bespoke things for you, but they're also going to allow through the user or the profile that the consumer creates, like they would on like a Beatport for example, or a iTunes Music of the past, you can actually allow them to like redeem utility or whatever it might be through there. So there's like the use cases are growing obviously because it's so new and things are moving fast. But I think to answer Rowdy's question before, I know you didn't ask me it, but the way my perspective from what Rowdy was asking and the way I've had success is, I think it's got to be, you got to have empathy for the person you're speaking to, and it depends where they're coming from. But there's like 4 or 5 levers that I've had heaps of success. When you're trying to sort of get through to particular artists.
Jump inside, right? No need to put your hand up.
Oh, all good. I just wanted to kind of echo on. Brilliant discussion, by the way, guys. Love this. So I was fortunate enough to interview and speak with Joan Westenberg at an NFT event earlier in the year. Such an insightful discussion, and it was probably the most important takeaway from that day, where everything just kind of clicked for me. And it was kind of like, we allow, and think about it, if you look something up on Google Images, you can basically save the file, and occasionally, you'll have it licensed, or it'll mention something like that, or it'll have a watermark. But 9 times out of 10, you can go on Google Images and find pretty much any image you want. There is no kind of search engine equivalent for music. Like you've got your royalty-free music on YouTube and other kind of platforms, but it was kind of just decided outside of our control that it's illegal to download MP3s and MP4s, especially when it's a movie or anything like that, and they had all these barriers in place to copyright strikes and other things to kind of limit that behavior. But it's perfectly fine to go out and right click and save a picture of the Mona Lisa or really any other artwork. So I think when it comes to music NFTs, it really is this cultural shift, and it's a shift in the way that we think about things, because the right click save meme, really obviously it was a meme, and hasn't really stuck around because NFTs, PFP NFTs have added so much utility beyond just the actual image itself. But I just think that was a really eye-opening moment, because what we're effectively doing now is everyone has gone from owning CDs, owning records, all that stuff we used to do before iTunes. And even, in iTunes to a certain degree, there were points where you could physically purchase the songs and just have them in your iTunes library, right? That's how it started. Now it's transitioned into Apple Music, and it's a streaming service. We kind of have to retrain people to want to own the music again, basically, because when you listen to something, like when you stream something, you're not really owning it, right? That's kind of this ownership. So kind of tying back into Rowdy's point, for artists, it's about giving that value back. It's about people representing what they own, and maybe there is a visual aspect to it. Maybe it's a CD that spins around, it has a cool graphic or something like that. But in this kind of digital economy that we're living in, where everything is digital, we spend all our time, on Twitter, on social media, this kind of mini metaverse that we've created. That's how it started. Now it's transitioned into Apple Music, and it's a streaming service. We kind of have to retrain people to want to own the music again, basically, because when you listen to something, like when you stream something, you're not really owning it, right? That's kind of this ownership. So kind of tying back into Rowdy's point, for artists, it's about giving that value back. It's about people representing what they own, and maybe there is a visual aspect to it. Maybe it's a CD that spins around, it has a cool graphic or something like that. But in this kind of digital economy that we're living in, where everything is digital, we spend all our time, on Twitter, on social media, this kind of mini metaverse that we've created. We effectively want to give that value back to the holders as well. So, in the same way people like, wearing t-shirts from the concerts they've gone to, or like representing the musicians that they want to, this is just a further extension of supporting the artists that they like, but also showcasing that to the world. So anyone who can really easily and like integrate, and this is from obviously the artist side as well. The artists love to have their fans who are showing off, what they're wearing and all that kind of stuff. But also from the collector side as well, we effectively need to cultivate these kind of values where people who own these music NFTs want to broadcast it to the world and signal to everyone, hey, I own this CD or this song or this collection from this particular artist. So really going to be interesting. Music NFTs want to broadcast it to the world and signal to everyone, hey, I own this CD or this song or this collection from this particular artist. So really going to be interesting to see how that kind of plays out. And once again, it does kind of go against the values. We're also used to streaming. We don't even buy DVDs or anything like that anymore, right? Blockbuster, all those kind of legacy rental services are completely out of business. I can't even remember the last time I bought a DVD or a Blu-ray. It's really only if you're a collector, in which case you've got a massive kind of cabinet with all these DVDs and Blu-rays. So it's a very similar kind of mindset that needs to be taken when it comes to music NFTs, because you can have the file downloaded on your computer. You want to showcase it in a wallet. You want people to see it. You want people to know that you're a part of kind of a movement. So really keen to see how that plays out, and anyone who can really effectively capture that and make it easy in the same way OpenSea hides a lot of the really ugly stuff from Etherscan. It's not all transaction hashes and addresses and things. Anyone who can who can really display and make it look really beautiful and really sexy, I think is the approach here. You want to make it look awesome so people can showcase that, and that's how we're going to onboard a lot of people into this. So it ties back to that ownership stuff.
You know what the biggest thing I think the music NFT scene sort of, I guess, faces at the moment as we move into a subscription based economy, it's okay, cool. How do you compete with that in terms of an NFT subscription service, or like what does that look like? I mean, I know that there'll still be the collectible side of it, as we've just discussed. People collect records, people collect, I don't know anyone, but I'm sure there's people out there still with a Walkman playing those CDs for some nostalgic, but moments. But I think that there's some really big friction points there, and I'd love to hear from everyone else. Like, what's your perspective? People out there still with a Walkman playing those CDs for some nostalgic, but moments. But I think that there's some really big friction points there, and I'd love to hear from everyone else. Like, what's your perspective on how we overcome that in terms of like a subscription based economy?
I think it's really interesting the points you guys make, and I'm very cognizant of the fact that as you mentioned, John, like people collect DVDs, and I think that the the people that are being attracted to the space right now are collectors. And I think we need to remain cognizant of that and not try to necessarily onboard everyone. I don't think that owning music or owning art is for everyone. I think that the subscription model is super convenient. And I think that the majority of people are going to want to stick to that. So I think it's actually about attracting people that are collectors and that are interested in showing people what tribes that they're a part of. I think it was Cooper Trooper that said something similar on a podcast a while back now. And he was just like, not everyone's going to want to come into the space. So don't spend energy, time, and effort trying to onboard the masses. Just onboard people that, someone that would have bought an album from a band, for example. Those are the people that will be interested, or at least more interested initially in buying NFTs. Curious to see what everyone else thinks.
I completely agree.
I think
With Spotify Wrapped dropping, and we can kind of see who the super fans are. Like if you're in the top 0.1% of an audience or listeners, I think honestly you're pretty prime position to kind of purchase a music NFT to kind of show your support. So yeah, completely agree with you there, Josh. Really valid and awesome points. Go for it, sorry.
I was just saying, it's not really a full fleshed out point, to be honest with you, but I think that, basically the music collection that you're talking about, no one born before no one born after 1995 really is going to know what you're talking about. There's a broad generalization, but I feel like music collection has been dead for for the masses for about 20 years. And I think if you want any longevity, you should be setting yourself up to your collection should be appealing to the kids who this stuff is going to make absolute sense to. Like, I don't think we talk about music collection, and that was something that I'm just trying to I'm just sussing this idea out kind of as I go. But I feel like it's worth kind of for longevity's sake, like kids now, like the kids born today are going to know all about this stuff by the time they're able to buy music for themselves. So I think music collection, and that was something that I'm just trying to I'm just sussing this idea out kind of as I go. But I feel like it's worth kind of for longevity's sake, like kids now, like the kids born today are going to know all about this stuff by the time they're able to buy music for themselves. So I think that's where the audience is. And we talk about the appetite for NFTs in Australia. It's really, really small. And the appetite for music NFTs globally is also, pretty small. But it's just a waiting game. And I think, kids, in 10, 15 years time, this is going to make absolute sense to them. And I think that's kind of, we're in a weird limbo where we're kind of transitioning from the incumbent systems like music streaming, and we're moving towards this new era, which like a lot of you make the point, it actually isn't that new. We only ever collected music, so it's a weird limbo time. And sorry that wasn't really a full fleshed out point.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that like what I often say to people is like, just like if you put out music anywhere, it doesn't mean just because you're putting out a music NFT, it's going to sell or it's going to make or break you. You still got to put the work in. Like where this can really work is where people have done some sort of amount of work to build a following in the first place. You still got to put the work in. Like where this can really work is where people have done some sort of amount of work to build a following in the first place, where they can then give those people the opportunity to back them early. Imagine owning Nirvana's first record, right, as an NFT, or imagine owning a ticket to Woodstock, etc. The fact of the matter is, those bands, festivals, etc., built a brand before, and people gave a fuck, and they wanted to buy or engage or follow those particular entities. And the same thing happens here. It's just giving people the same thing happens here. It's just giving people or musicians in particular, the ability to fund their passion or their projects upfront without having to sell their soul to a label, or without having to give away all this money to all of these other people just absolutely scabbing from them. It just gives them more power. So I think I think the conversation is more around, you still need to do the work from an awareness standpoint. You still need to put content out. You still need to build that following. But you're now giving people, like was mentioned a couple of minutes ago, that give a fuck about this, the opportunity to essentially, invest in you early. It is what it is, right? So to support you early, and they're able to support you by, financially supporting you, but then they actually have skin in the game and have that bragging right, have that ability to express themselves by showing it in the wallet that John was talking about, or by able to use that NFT to redeem a meet and greet at a show, or redeem something through a partnership that band or producer or whoever it might be has established. So I think it's really just adding another string to the bow for whatever entity, whether it's a musician, has established. So I think it's really just adding another string to the bow for whatever entity, whether it's a musician, even a record label themselves, or a festival brand, a nightclub, whatever it might be, giving them the ability to release NFTs is just giving them another avenue to engage with their followers, engage with their fans, and gain a closer bond, and also start to earn more of that money directly for the work that they're putting in.
I know I just spoke, but if I could just jump in real quick, and Theo, just to your point, like you mentioned it still takes an artist. You're still going to have to put in the work, and you're still going to have to create content and stuff. I just think, respectfully, very respectfully, I disagree with that, and just from the perspective that I think part of what's kind of hurting the music industry right now is the amount of artists that think that in order to be a successful musician, they also have to be a content creator. I think that's really, really poisonous to the whole industry, and I think that's what's kind of making a lot of pop music really shithouse these days. I think that part of what's exciting about Web3 is that you can actually focus on the art form, and that's making music. And I think that for me personally, that's what's super exciting. And sure, like that's not to say that you can't ever post a video and you can't ever, post all this, entertaining, content. But like it really takes the spotlight out of that. If you spend any amount of time on something like TikTok, musicians will be telling other musicians on that platform, in order to be successful, you have to be posting 3 to 5 videos a day. If you'd said that to any musician 5 or 10 years ago, they'd laugh in your face. And I think it's that kind of toxic ideology that's kind of really messing with a lot of musicians. And I think part of what's so cool about NFTs and Web3 is that it puts all the focus back on the music. That's just my 2 cents, but I rant over.
Yeah, when I say content, I mean release music.
Sure, gotcha. Okay. Well, then I just made that whole tangent for no reason.
No, I mean that's a
I
really
think
good point.
Yeah,
Because there was something Lowly said on stage. I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday when he said, musicians shouldn't have to be content creators. But then he sort of expanded, saying that musicians shouldn't have to sit in Twitter Spaces like 18 hours a day either, and that needs
whole tangent for no reason.
No, I mean that's a really good point.
Yeah,
Because there was something Lowly said on stage. I think it was last Wednesday or Thursday when he said, musicians shouldn't have to be content creators. But then he sort of expanded, saying that musicians shouldn't have to sit in Twitter Spaces like 18 hours a day either, and that needs to evolve. So I think there is something interesting there. What you guys were talking about psychology earlier around like buyers and NFTs and early ownership. I always find the Spotify Wrapped day really interesting because that psychology to me is the same. I feel as though I always look at Spotify Wrapped and I'm like, that's kind of an NFT. Like it's the same psychology that people are proud to be supporting artists or proud to be on the ground floor of an artist. And I find that really interesting.
I think at the same time, oh, go for it, Reddy.
Sorry, man. I was just gonna say, like, I mean, it's only a matter of time before other platforms, whether it be Audius or whatever, come out with like maybe they airdrop you a version of the Spotify Warped as an NFT, like for each year. And I guess that's kind of cool of all the artists that you could collect, and then put your own spin on it, and then they can get creative with a little video with a mixture of all the music NFTs you collected or something like that. Like I'm keen to see some sort of like creative evolution for that. But yeah, I mean it's an exciting space. So yeah, there's plenty to do as well. But just feeding back into that Spotify Warped, it just makes you that they market it really well because it's like, oh yeah, cool. I'm in the top X percent of this. And I'm Pop Smoke's biggest fan or whatever it may be. I think it's just another way to flex and create that social interaction more fun. with one another. So I'm sure that people will get more creative with that and implementing that into an NFT or a different type of platform. I think there's plenty to do there. Maybe it's an SBT. Who knows?
Yeah, I think it ultimately comes down to, fans already are proud to represent their favorite artists, right? Like, I'm not too big on Instagram. I know for a fact if I head there, everyone's stories is going to be, oh, look at me, I'm in the top 2% of this audience. Look how much time I spent listening. Like, people really value that part of them, because music, forms a part of their identity. I think we all saw, I don't know, I've got a girlfriend who loves Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift tickets for the concert were selling for upwards of $31,000, and obviously there's a very avid resellers and flippers that we commonly see in the NFT space. But it would not surprise me if people were willing to pay that amount to be meters within Taylor Swift or to meet and greet and all those kind of things. So you've already got an audience which is primed to sit around, click the mint button basically, and buy some NFTs. Obviously, instead of NFTs, they're buying tickets. So they're already somewhat familiar with that process. If it was ever to come for NFT ticketing to see these musicians, but even beyond that, like they kind of understand the value that it comes with being a supporter. So if you were to airdrop them, maybe clip behind the scene footage, before the night begins, or some kind of documentary, short film, merchandise, like unreleased singles could be an absolute massive thing within the Web3 space, because maybe they could auction it off to all the holders, or either a Dutch auction, or maybe just randomly choose one and be like, hey, here's an unreleased Kanye song. Like the resale value on owning something like that would be immensely high. So really bullish to see on how the space evolves. Obviously it's still super early days, but I'm all for it. Like I'd love to see this grow more. And would love to have some more, I love seeing the Web3 musicians. At NFT Fest, the after party, we saw Lil Bubble get on stage, which was really awesome. He makes some amazing parody videos. Lowly played live at NFT Fest. The Ocean Floor, the before party as well at Oshi Gallery. Like we've got some really awesome stuff happening in the Web3 space within Australia. So bullish on the Australian ecosystem, but love the music NFT angle, which are coming in very strong in. So let's see how it plays out in the next few years.
Just what you were talking about too there, that sort of gap where people are proud to share their Spotify Wrapped and talk about the early support of artists. And I thought what Spotify did cool today was sort of add in a video from artists that's sent to you, basically saying thanks for supporting us. So I was like, that's a cool touch. What do you think the gap is there that they would be proud of Spotify Wrapped, and then when an NFT is mentioned, they're like, why would I do that? I don't like NFTs, or I hate NFTs.
I think we need to remove the conversation altogether. Talk more about the benefits, right? I think anytime new technologies come in, the way that the barrier has been overcome is when people have been, I guess, spoken to in a way where they actually understand why the change is important, as opposed to trying to sit them down and explain to them what a smart contract is. People really don't need to understand that. And I'm not saying that this whole digital collectible thing is the new meta or whatever it might be. The point that I'm trying to make here is that I think that people are going to have this option to support their favorite artists in a new way. And if we talk more about the benefits around, buy this digital version of my music for XYZ, as opposed to you need to learn about NFTs, or this is why NFTs are good. If we talk more about the music and keep it relative to what they care about and why they should support that artist, I think we'll have better luck.
100%. I think, you mentioned the digital collectible point there, Theo. That couldn't be more true. I think Twitter, when it announced that they were hexagon PFPs, it kind of came up with a pop-up. It's like, well, NFT profile pictures, right, are available. And it's like NFT stands for non-fungible token or whatever, right? People don't care about that, right? Like, I think even Elon Musk tweeted and said, this is not it, Twitter. And this was before he owned Twitter. So that just really goes to show that it's kind of out of touch with its audience, because 90% of Twitter users, outside of NFT Twitter, don't really care, probably never going to use it, and like any other pop-up, they're just going to swipe away and go away with it. as opposed to something like Reddit, which already had a noticeable mascot, the Snoo, the little alien. Completely on the back end, nothing to do with NFT, no mention of smart contract, anything like that. Once again, just focusing on the audience, like, hey, support your favorite artists, pay via card, and you can actually own this and it's yours. And guess what? Oh, by the way, it's secured by blockchain and it's actually called an NFT. That comes so much later and further down the line. So you don't need to set up a MetaMask. You don't need to fund your wallet with ETH. You don't need to, create an account on FTX or any of these other exchanges, which, may or may not exist within the next few years. So realistically, if you move all those friction points and barriers to entry, that's how you're going to onboard people who, they, once again, it's a bit, this isn't the meta, and I don't think this will always be the case, but this could be a prime example of an application where people don't even realize they're using crypto because they're just paying that. Maybe there's a $1 or $2 fee which they don't understand, but that's going towards the gas on Polygon and transferring the NFT over. So this could be a massive opportunity, and anyone who removes that and makes it a really simple user interface and user experience for people who aren't Web3 natives is going to absolutely crush the market. So really, really keen to see whoever can nail that. It's going to be unlike anything we've ever seen before. We're going to just randomly see 1 million Polygon addresses pop up again, and we're going to be like, all right, who the hell is it this time? Which big player has stepped into the scene and changed the game? So let's see how
we're not releasing that many, but Q2 next year we're releasing something called Lucky World. So we're calling it an access pass, and what it's going to do is going to give utility and access to acts such as Mask Wolf, Phil Sparks, Marlowe, Paris Lawrence, and about 100 other artists, mostly Australian. It's also going to give people access to festival brands like Ultra, and a bunch of other pretty big brand names across EDM. There's band shows as well, and also things like physical vinyl art or other physical collectibles that'll ship with music. So we're sort of theming that in the sense that this digital pass that you'll be able to buy with fiat if you want. We'll convert it on the back end. They won't even know what's happening. But for the people that do want to pay in crypto, but most of the time it's going to be ETH. They can do that as well. So we're just not avoiding, but we're making it easier to consume. Obviously, people that know how it works are going to understand.
Hell is it this time? Which big player has stepped into the scene and changed the game? So let's see how
we're not releasing that many, but Q2 next year we're releasing something called Lucky World. So we're calling it an access pass, and what it's going to do is going to give utility and access to acts such as Mask Wolf, Phil Sparks, Marlowe, Paris Lawrence, and about 100 other artists, mostly Australian. It's also going to give people access to festival brands like Ultra, and a bunch of other pretty big brand names across EDM. There's band shows as well, and also things like physical vinyl art or other physical collectibles that'll ship with music. So we're sort of theming that in the sense that this digital pass that you'll be able to buy with fiat if you want. We'll convert it on the back end. They won't even know what's happening. But for the people that do want to pay in crypto, but most of the time it's going to be ETH. They can do that. So we're just not avoiding, but we're making it easier to consume. Obviously, people that know how it works are going to understand that it is an NFT and it's on blockchain. But for the most part, a lot of the people that follow the artists or the brands that we're sort of onboarding, most of them aren't going to know it, but they are going to understand the digital realm and transacting in that way. So let's see how we go, hey?
Yeah, I think that's fucking awesome, Theo. Especially, from an artist perspective. Like, I mean, if you're, going on tours or whatever it may be, signed to labels, doing festivals, etc., etc. I think that's a really cool way to, reward your your fans, whether it be your friends, your family, whatever. If you can sort out like an NFT, like as an all access pass to, a backstage experience to come and hang out with you, or come and to a private sort of song like day in the studio, or like something like that, like us as humans, we want experiences, right? That's what we love, that's what we live for, that's what we're all about. That's the only thing that we that really makes us human. Everything else is like borrowed and rented in life, right? And the only thing that we have is our memories and experiences. So it's like you want to capitalize on experience. We're all about. That's the only thing that we that really makes us human. Everything else is like borrowed and rented in life, right? And the only thing that we have is our memories and experiences. So it's like you want to capitalize on experiences. I guess especially from an artist perspective, it's like, okay, cool. How can I make this more valuable? Like, yes, selling the music and stuff, I think that's fucking awesome. But then it's just like, cool. Like, what more can you do, or can this pass do, that allows people to have unique, maybe one-on-one experiences or something like that? Going to a private show, a gig, a day in the studio, or maybe it's hey, come on tour with me. If you're a big enough artist, like, you're going to come on a tour with me, all expenses paid, or something like that, or something cool. I know that's fucking a lot. That's probably very expensive, but
Yeah.
but yeah.
But Rowdy, just on that point as well, and I will have to jump off very soon, guys. But I think as well, like this is a chance to invest in your favorite artists as well. So in the same way, with you can invest in an artist who has if you're bullish on a particular artist, like say let's use the most common NFT example. I'm sure no one in the room has ever heard of this. In the same way, with you can invest in an artist who has if you're bullish on a particular artist. Like say, let's use the most common NFT example. I'm sure no one in the room has ever heard of this artist. His name is a guy named Beeple. Basically, if you're early to support someone like Beeple and you get one of his earlier pieces, realistically, if said artist like takes off earlier, then the earlier pieces could end up being very valuable collector's items. So to kind of be on the ground supporting your favorite kind of indie artists before they pop off and turn massive, that could be like you can really reward your Genesis holders, and depending on how you structure the NFT, what that kind of looks like. It could be, well, Genesis, maybe the Genesis NFT doesn't mint out, and then they draw a cutoff date. They're like, well, the first 100 people who minted and supported us are getting that backstage pass. Like, I think it's really, music. They're like, well, the first 100 people who minted and supported us are getting that backstage pass. Like, I think it's really, music fans would love to kind of have that conviction and basically place their bets and invest in the people that they would like. And if the music career doesn't really turn out, or maybe they give up, or you never know, something tragic might happen to the artist. The collection might not go anywhere, and there might never be that utility. But I think a lot of collectors are willing to go anywhere, and there might never be that utility. But I think a lot of collectors are willing to take that risk. Once again, pay to support their favorite artist. And if you end up, if the artist, further down the line ends up becoming massive and going on tour and flying all these people out from all over the world, once again, wishful thinking, and I don't think we'll get too many examples of that, but that just kind of goes to show that, people, and by far this is like a very common trait, people love to reimburse and support their day one followers, right? Like all these rappers, all these musicians talk about day ones. So if you're a day one, I 100% guarantee if you're supporting the right person with the right values in the music NFT industry, you're probably going to see that value and utility reflected back. Maybe it's in price, maybe you get in at a really awesome price and it shoots up. It could be in other ways which aren't as tangible. But yeah, wanted to chime in and also say GM to Lowly and everyone else on stage, because this is going to be a really awesome space now that Lowly's up here. It already was one, but unfortunately, I will have to jump off soon, guys. But really awesome having this conversation with you guys.
Yeah, for sure. And that's we see that as well. Like a lot of the way we're structuring our thing is the artists are already doing everything that we're giving utility to. We're just going to be able to pay them for it, and also it allows them to dip their toe into the space without fully committing to their own project. And then once they're comfy, we're already going to have this Web3 native audience that are building around this lucky world concept that we're to dip their toe into the space without fully committing to their own project. And then once they're comfy, we're already going to have this Web3 native audience that are building around this Lucky World concept that we're putting together, so that once whichever artist wants to launch their own, we can act as a launch pad to get them going. So we're really excited about what it's going to be able to do for the crew that want to sort of get involved.
We want to welcome Lowly as well as our co-founder Clint. How are you guys going?
What up, GM? How are you?
Good, man. How did NFT Fest finish up for you?
It was fantastic, man. Went to the after party and did what you do at an after party, and didn't stay out too late because I had a flight early. And when you've got a young or two young kids, you try and take as much sleep as you possibly can. So I think I found a pretty good balance. Didn't wake up feeling too rough. So yeah, pretty good, man.
Yeah, I thought it was an amazing event. Lots of effort by the Ocean Floor team with, we had our launch at the marketplace launch at Oshi, and then 2 panels, 1 demonstration. It was pretty busy for a few days there, but just such a good vibe, a collective energy, I would say, to drive through to the future, looking at the vision of where we'll be in, 10, 15, 20 years, rather than getting caught up in terminology or the rollout of the tech. Was kind of a bit of a eye opener there. So that was great to see good energy and support.
And bringing it back to the topic of the space and throwing it at you two guys, so how are you seeing the appetite for music NFTs in Australia, particularly off the back of NFT Fest?
I mean, yeah, I can, I guess, touch on this. Like, it's not incredible yet, like I think there's a way to go in Australia. I mean, I would love to slowly but surely find more artists who are integrating the tech, and it doesn't always need to be in an innovative way, but just doing it where it's a part of their campaign. Like, if you're a semi-decent artist, you're usually putting forward a campaign prior to the song to try and get pre-saves, to have your assets ready, to push them out through various means. And I feel like it would be a good idea for more artists to simply integrate the Web3 stuff into their Web2 campaigns. The problem that I think they'll find, though, is the audiences they're still very different, unfortunately. So there's going to be effort placed within the Web3 sphere to generate people who are going to purchase the NFTs. And then there's obviously going to be effort in the Web2 sphere to get people to stream and watch your video. So there will be an element of splitting attention, I think. But for those who are interested in Web3, it's kind of your only option, their Web2 campaigns. The problem that I think they'll find, though, is the audiences they're still very different, unfortunately. So there's going to be effort placed within the Web3 sphere to generate people who are going to purchase the NFTs. And then there's obviously going to be effort in the Web2 sphere to get people to stream and watch your video. So there will be an element of splitting attention, I think. But for those who are interested in Web3, it's kind of your only option, I think, at this point. And both can play into each other in a sense, but I would still say they're quite secular. And that's just a matter of time until they come together, I feel.
Nice work, Lally. I just want to, something was mentioned before. I heard a few different examples of user experience from fans before, and also comments on, artist journeys in this space. How much work do you need to put into running your own campaigns and certain socials? I think it really depends on where you're at with your career and your appetite for doing that stuff, right? Like my early days running your own campaigns and certain socials. I think it really depends on where you're at with your career and your appetite for doing that stuff, right? Like my early days of quitting after I finished university and deciding not to go down the corporate path straight away. I was working in a market garden to make sure that I could spend every evening knocking off early and recording and writing with my original band, my cover band, and out promoting and working. And I did anything and everything to try and make that a success. So I think it just depends on, I just want to comment, I think it depends on where you're at with your career, the quality of your art, your appetite for that stuff. I know we've seen with some of the artist information nights that we've done that, people have hands up just going, I don't care about Web3. I just want to create art. We're like, fantastic. Keep doing that because that's what you should do. So I think, yeah, it depends on those few factors, where you're at in your career, the quality of your art, your appetite for tech. And, there's a place for everybody. And those that need help, let's help them together. Let's do it.
I think, sorry, just I know there's a hand up. I just want to quickly say I think it's easy as well, like to Loli's point, that people say that the appetite mightn't be that big in this country. I don't think that's a negative. Like I think that's so exciting. Like personally, and maybe it's just me, but I love that this shit is niche. I think that's so cool. Like I think this is we're gonna look back on this time in maybe like 80 in this country. I don't think that's a negative. Like, I think that's so exciting. Like, personally, and maybe it's just me, but I love that this shit is niche. I think that's so cool. Like, I think this is we're going to look back on this time in maybe like 18, 24 months time and be like, oh man, it was so much cooler when it was more underground. Like, personally, it makes music feel kind of exciting again. Like, to me, I love that, that not everyone's talking about it. That could just be me, but personally, I think it's a massive positive.